First thing that you should know in crypto is that Bitcoin moves in cycles of 4. So every 4 years, the halving rewards get cut in half, in which case this is going to create shock supply to the system, which is why you'll see between these 4 markers, every 532 days for the past 2 cycles has basically been the exact all-time high. All right, you'll see in the middle of this cycle would still put us out into September of 2025. All right, so when I'm gauging cycles, you'll notice every time we have our halving cycle, there's usually a cool-off period. Just before the midpoint, we get these big runs up. So you'll see just before these cycles start, you'll see a little bit of a push and then a correction before a big move up. That's why last fall when we saw this move start, that signaled that we would potentially get our first initial push, followed by a little bit of a reset after halving, followed by a massive push in the apex of the cycle about 530 days after the halving. All right, and you can see this is exactly what we've been calling for the past 2 years on YouTube. I'm not making this up as a hindsight thing, okay? This cycle mapping is exactly what I'm doing in order to time my other entries on investments, because actually if you're doing this type of timing, you can also use something called the Bitcoin Power Law Corridor. Big shout out to Capricorn Investments. They made this indicator, but basically this indicator is showing us the Bitcoin chart's ranges of volatility based on a logarithmic chart. Now, this is just a way of looking at big data in a digestible form. When you switch to a logarithmic function, you can go onto your trading view and just click on this L here, and that's going to move Bitcoin into this logarithmic chart. You can see as Bitcoin moves up, the cycle lows never really go below this green lower line. They always touch right off of it before making their moves. So at these cycle lows, once this green line is hit, that's the bottom of the cycle, right? This high red band here, each cycle has been touched. Because this chart is diminishing, right? We didn't hit this upper band here, but you can see we usually go well into this red zone, in which case now we're just at the midpoint of this chart, right? So even if we're going up to halfway through this, that's bringing us up to, I mean, in my opinion, 165, 175,000 using other technical analysis that I'll show you here in a second. But overall, if I switch out of this view, right, this can show me generally where we are in conjunction with the timing of the cycle, where we could expect the prices to move. And you know, everyone thinks that they're geniuses because everything starts to pump when crypto turns on. It's basically about finding good investments that have good ideas that you can get in the ground floor of that will probably pump regardless because of this overall cycle movement, but then just getting into things that make sense based on the narrative.